Good afternoon. This is Danny Lanz from Results Driven Leadership. I'm joined by my two partners, Tony and Vaughn. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the hiring process in the healthcare industry. There are some specific challenges that the healthcare industry deals with. We have a few clients in that space, and we've found that this particular class has been especially relevant to the folks we work with. There's a lot of hiring going on in the industry. There's a shortage of good people. And so getting the right people and getting them onboarded properly is, there's never been more relevant than now. So we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts of hiring. This is a condensed version over our full class on this subject, but you should get some really good tidbits today that you can implement right away if you'd like. So with no further ado, let's proceed. First of all, it's important to understand that, especially if you're in a heavy growth mode and you're hiring a lot, that nobody, and that certainly includes the three of us who have hired thousands of people collectively, ever gets it 100% of the time right. There are some people that are extremely good at mastering the interview, and you know, there are flaws in any process, right? But the tools that you're going to learn today, if implemented successfully and deliberately and consistently, will significantly improve your batting average and will allow you to hire the right people a far larger percentage of the time. And so what we're really going to talk about a little bit today is having a clear and defined process. This is based on best practice techniques that are work in every industry and pretty much every application. Just real briefly about us. Between the three of us, we have experience managing everybody from individual contributors all the way up to senior level executives in organizations as large as 10, 15, 20,000 people. And as you can see, we come from a few different industries. And what you'll hear from our classes is that despite our varied backgrounds, we find that the same rules of management apply in every industry. And so we think that our sort of eclectic background really helps frame that up for everyone. So that's a little bit about us. A gentleman you may have heard of by the name of Steve Jobs, fairly well regarded as being pretty successful, had many well-known quotes around hiring people that were smarter than himself, which was a pretty humble statement coming from a guy that was clearly a genius. But he was very well known for being a huge advocate of hiring the very best people he could find. And in our experience, it's a common mistake of especially junior managers to be sometimes a little bit threatened by the superstars that they might interview. And we're here to tell you that the best path forward for any manager at any level is to hire the absolute best talent that you can attract. So with that, we're going to get into 5 common hiring mistakes. And this is a condensed list from the 14 that we normally cover in this class, but these are the top 5. And basically, if you take a look at some of these hiring mistakes and you flip them and you do the opposite, you pretty much have your process of what you should follow. So let's get into number 1. So the most common hiring mistake is hiring too fast. And this is one we see an awful lot in the healthcare industry, right, guys? It's people having a shortage. They've got patients that need care, and there's a shortage of properly skilled people to fill that need. And so if somebody's got the right credentials and they've got a pulse, we're going to get them in that seat as fast as possible. And although we sometimes feel as though we can't slow that process down, we can assure you that hiring too fast is often something that leads to turnover down the road. So it's really important to resist the urge to hire the first seemingly qualified person that comes across your desk, and follow a structured process so that you can be sure that you're hiring the best candidate every single time you have an opening, or even if you have multiple openings at the same time. So try to resist that feeling of desperation to fill the seat. In the long run, you will create considerably more work for yourself as a manager if you have to deal with a poor performer than you will if you take a little bit of extra time up front to hire the right person. So definitely take a long-term view when you're hiring. Slow the process down enough that you follow what we're going to share with you today, and resist the urge to hire too quickly.
So yeah, let's move on to mistake number 2, which is hiring based on, having one good interview. I think we've all been in this situation. Anybody that's hired anybody in the past understands that people, come to the interview prepared, and they're prepared to put on their interview mask, or put their best foot forward, or whatever other expression you want to use, and have it kind of dialed in what they want to talk about. And we're going to get into a little bit when we talk about these behavioral-based interviews that are going to eliminate some of the problems that you run into. But having only one person do the interview and not getting that additional perspective is very difficult, especially in the healthcare industry, where there's so many different people that you come in contact with, whether they're clinicians or the intake, or the executive directors or the office managers. There's a lot of people that have to interact with this individual after they've come on board and they've been trained. So you want to try to get some as much input and perspective as possible. And so you want as many people that you think are relevant to be able to talk to that individual, and maybe you put aside some different types of questions for those individuals to get some different perspective. And you don't want to hire on emotions. We've all been there. We've done interviews where someone comes in and we love them immediately. They might have an amazing personality or extremely engaging, and we're thinking, well, wow, you need those characteristics to be good at what I'm hiring you for. So we get a little emotional at the beginning, and we start letting emotions get the best of us without really having all the facts behind it. And again, when we start talking about behavioral-based interviewing, that's going to allow us to learn more about the individual and some of the facts behind it, so we don't have to rely specifically on emotions. And yeah, once you're in that situation where you're feeling good about somebody, you definitely want to get more people involved. And maybe it's, in your world, there's 2 or 3 people talking to them before you, and you're the last person that has that interview. But you want to be able to subject them to as many interviews as possible, or with the right people. So mistake number 3, hiring based on a great resume. And again, that, a lot of these things that we're talking about now come from what Danny was talking about in mistake number 1, is when you're in a hurry, you're going to start seeing things differently than you do when you're taking the right amount of time to be able to find the right candidate. We can sit here and talk all day about the pitfalls of getting somebody in the system too quickly. And we will sit here and talk about, well, the reason I have to do that is because I have to hire somebody. I need somebody today. How many times have you heard that one? The problem is, when you need somebody today, you're going to eliminate some of these important steps and start making a lot of these mistakes. You're going to hire too fast. You're going to, they're going to go through a quick interview process. You're going to look at their resume and be, wow, this is great. This is awesome. I got the right person. But the fact is, you have to make sure you invest the time to make sure that the experience and the education are relevant. And that means doing background checks, checking references, and not being fooled by that beautiful resume that's got everything that you think you need. And not to beat the dead horse, but behavioral-based interviewing is going to eliminate some of the issues that you have to deal with and some of the pitfalls of looking at a beautiful resume. And number 4 is not using available hiring tools. And the assessments which we've talked about, different types of motivation and honesty surveys, skills tests and general intelligence tests are great tools that a lot of us have used in the past to be able to see if what they're talking about and see if their resume, they can translate what they've said they've done in the past and their level of experience to real life skills and real life tests that address the specific issues that you need within your organization and for that particular position. In the restaurant world, it was being able to cut and dice and slice. In the healthcare world, it's experience in how you've dealt with nurses in the past, and are you able to go into a situation, a high stress situation, and deal effectively with the clientele. So there's a lot of things you can do, and we strongly recommend that you incorporate different tools beyond just the survey, the behavioral personality surveys themselves. So I'm going to turn this over to Vaughn, and you can talk a little bit about mistake number 5.
Nobody knows your business and your culture better than you. And you've got to make sure that you're hiring people that are going to fit into your culture and fit with your management or leadership style. So you've got to have a firm handle on what that is, how you would describe that, and more importantly, the competencies, the behaviors, the personality types that fit into that culture. If you've got a very buttoned up professional culture, you want to make sure that you're hiring people that are going to fit into that culture, that they're not a little looser with their personality and their normal behavior, that they enjoy something that's very structured as an environment. And then conversely, if you have a little more open environment or a culture within your organization, making sure that you're not hiring somebody that's going to be off-putting to that. Also, the people you enjoy working with better than anybody, people that have in the past been successful under your leadership. So identify those types of things prior to the interview, have a firm grasp or handle on what you're looking for in the way of a personality and the type of person or passion that you're looking for. And we're getting ready to move into the tool that I believe will help you tremendously in order to draw that out of a individual. You increase your chances tremendously when you're matching your new hires to your culture. We've talked about 5 common mistakes so far, and let me just kind of wrap this up just for a second. Yes, you get under pressure. Yes, you probably have the paradigm or the bias that you're looking for a certain amount of experience that you have to have before you hire somebody. Yes, you're in a little bit of a rush, so you just want to get somebody hired. You've got a hole. You've got scheduling needs. You've got to get a body in there to get things done. Let me caution you. These mistakes we've talked about today are crucial mistakes to avoid. It creates hiring issues down the line. If you do the proper amount of work, take your time and do it right up front, it saves you from future hires. Think about the people you've hired that haven't worked out. Think about how many people have left your organization because they weren't a good fit for either you or your organization, or they turned out to be somebody different than you anticipated based on that interview or the series of interviews, if you went that far, that they revealed to you during the course of those conversations. Take your time, do the assessments, do the screening, make sure you do the hiring right. Hire slow so that you don't have to fire fast later on. Everybody has a 90-day probationary period, but I got to tell you, in working with many of our healthcare organizations, because they are so limited and pressed for staffing, rarely do they execute that 90-day grace period and let go those folks who aren't working out. And then 6 months or a year, that person's still a bad individual, a bad fit for your company. They're not a bad person, they're just a bad fit. And you're having to deal with the emotion, the drama, and the drain. Instead of dealing with it for 90 days and being finished with it, admit your mistake, learn from it, move on. We're dealing with it week after week, month after month for an extended period. Avoid that if you can. So let's get in to the part that I think is really important. You can train skills, but you can't train competencies. I can't train somebody to have a great work ethic. I can't train somebody to be a great communicator. I can't train somebody to have great critical decision-making skills. We're either raised with that or born with that. That typically cannot be trained. So you want to make sure you're hiring the right person before you worry about hiring the right experience. That little shift in thought, that little shift in your process, look for the right fit, look for the right person first versus the resume or the experience. If you put the person first, you're hiring success. And the retention of that employee, regardless of their position, just became extended and much more successful. Understand that I cannot train certain characteristics or competencies. And if you think you can, you're wrong. I'm sorry. You can train skills, you can train knowledge, but you got to start with the right person first. Let me put this into a little bit more of a perspective. If you close your eyes right now and you thought about the very best employee you've hired, or even a series of employees that you've really enjoyed working with, that have been really successful working with you and your organization, start writing down, make a list of all the things that you believe made them successful. And when you go back and you look at that list, I'm pretty sure that a lot of, if not everything on that list, is things that they brought to the table that couldn't be trained. Pretty sure of that. Conversely, think back on all the people who have not worked out for you. Those problem hires, those employees that just haven't made it or have created drama or emotion or stress for you, and those that they work with, even maybe your patients. Write down the list of things that came with them, that the way they displayed themselves. And could you have trained that out of them? Probably not. They brought that to the party. They brought that to the organization. And had you been able to uncover that prior to hire, you would have saved yourself time, money, energy, and the stress that goes with having to deal with a problem employee. So what's the best way in the world to avoid those bad hires? What's the best way ever invented to make sure I'm hiring the perfect or as close to a perfect fit as I can for my healthcare organization? It's called the behavior-based interview. And understanding that the reason why we study history is so we don't repeat it, or we learn from history. The best predictor of the future is the past. The best predictor of someone being successful or not successful is their past. Learning how somebody responded to a challenging situation, for example, how they responded to that, and how they answer that question during a behavior-based interview is very, very revealing. And what we're sharing with you today is the proper way, the way the most successful organizations, regardless of industry, but certainly in the healthcare organization. We've already seen tremendous success with the healthcare companies we're working with using this process that we're going to share with you right now. This process eliminates mistakes and dramatically improves the successes that you have in your current and future hires. So let's think about this. if your typical interview, first of all, let me warn you, most hiring decisions today, and this has been statistically proven over and over again, the hiring decision is made in about the first 2 or 3 minutes of meeting somebody. You can't do that. You've got to give it time, and you've got to go into an interview trying to uncover all the reasons to or not to hire this person. Remember to follow the 80-20 rule. The interviewee should be producing about 80% of the discussion. You, as the interviewer, should be conducting about 20% of the conversation. So let's get to our first examples of a behavior-based interview. Again, what you're trying to uncover, what you're trying to reveal is their true DNA. And if I ask somebody closed-ended questions, do you know how to do this? Or have you ever done that? I'm less likely to get the true picture of this person. So let's turn that around. Let's turn that into an open-ended question that sounds something like this. Tell me what attracted you to this position. Walk me through your job history. How soon can you start the job? What do you like to do for fun? Those are icebreakers. That gets them talking. That gets the flow going. And then you're going to start moving into the meat of the behavior-based questions. Now, once they're warmed up, they're getting a little bit of a pattern of how this is going to go. You're going to start asking them the tougher questions. Many people don't respond to these in a way that is appropriate because they're not used to these kind of questions. Again, only the best companies, the top 5% of all organizations in the healthcare industry utilize this approach. So they probably haven't experienced this before. So you have to explain to them, I'm going to ask you some questions. And what I'm looking for is for you to tell me a story. I need you to relive this situation and share to me the specifics about that experience. So one of the first questions you'd want to ask is, tell me about a time in the past you worked effectively under pressure. Instead of, how do you work pretty well under pressure? Oh yeah, absolutely. Best pressure person in the world. Tell me about a time in the past that you worked effectively under pressure. And so you want them to relive the story that will allow you to understand whether they have the work ethic, whether they have the emotional, the EQ in order to handle tough situations, whether they're able to think strategically under difficult situations. You're trying to uncover these things that, again, you can't teach them. Tell me about a time where you were faced with a big challenge, what you did to accomplish it. You want to hear from them, their thought processes. How were they able to plan? How were they able to execute? What was the end result of all that? And you're looking for success stories. When people can't tell you really good examples of these things, it's probably because they're not very good at it. So let me give you some other examples of some behavior-based interviews. Give an example of a goal you reached and tell me what steps it took you to achieve it. Tell me about a big mistake you made. Describe a decision that wasn't popular. Describe to me your perfect job. This is the one that will uncover whether your environment, your culture, your management style, leadership style is a good fit for them. If you're looking for teamwork, if teamwork is important to you, tell me about how you worked in a team to accomplish a goal. This last one on this slide right here is really, really important. It's a peeve of mine, is what questions have I not asked about you that you feel I need to know and helping me make a decision on you being the candidate, the perfect candidate for this position. Reason why you want to do that is very often they will reveal something to you that hasn't come up before. And I can't tell you how magical question number 12 on here is. It has prevented me from making mistakes, and it's also prevented me from making bad decisions on hiring somebody I probably should. This last question has really changed my mind about individuals. And I've gone back and probed a little bit further to make sure that I was right about that decision change. But you know, I can't tell you the stories that I've heard come out of people's mouths when I've asked this question. So keep those in mind. We'll be more than happy to share an entire interview guide with you if you so need it. More than happy to do that. All you have to do is email us, and we'll put a link to our email in this video, in these slides, that you can reach out to us. And if you'd like to have a discussion or have us explain some of these behavior-based interviews with you further, happy to do it for no cost. So this, again, is one of the examples of, and this is 30 minutes of a 2-hour course. We gave you a little sample of what we do in just one of our modules on hiring great people. No matter what business you're in the people business. And when you get the people part right, a lot of other things take care of themselves. So focus on this. And we would be more than thrilled to have the opportunity to talk to you further about this. On the screen right now is 24 modules of our very broad list of training material that we share with the healthcare industry. Depending on the position, this is part of our high impact manager training. We'd love to be able to talk to you about the ways to tailor one of these programs for your organization. It works. It's been working for 30 years. It works in almost every industry, but it's really important in the healthcare industry. Thank you very much for taking the opportunity with us today, watching this video, and we'd love to be able to speak with you. Reach out to us at rdltraining.com, rdltraining.com, and you can, that's our website. You can take a look at all the things that we provide in the way of services, and especially training. We have a special healthcare section under our services. Please take a look at that and fill out a contact form so we can have a brief conversation with you and see if our training programs would be a good fit for your needs in your organization. We can tailor a program just for you. We promise you that it'll improve the success of your organization. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Danny. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.